I gave my parents a luxurious one-week trip to Europe with me. When I picked them up to go to the airport, they told me, "We upgraded to first class with your card." I laughed, but when we landed, they confessed something that made my blood boil. I don't think I'll ever understand how some people can take and take and take from someone who loves them and never feel a single shred of guilt. I was raised to believe that family meant everything. You sacrifice for them, you protect them, you stand by them no matter what. It was drilled into me since childhood. My parents, Adam and Denise, weren't the worst people in the world. Let's get that straight. They didn't beat me, they didn't abandon me, and they didn't scream at me every day. But the older I got, the more I realized that love, in their eyes, had a price tag. And I was the one always paying it. I'm 35 now, financially comfortable, and single by choice. I worked my SS off to get to this point. I have my own house, no debt, and a job I actually enjoy. My parents? They were the complete opposite. They lived paycheck to paycheck, always drowning in one bill or another, spending money they didn't have, and then looking at me with those hopeful, expectant eyes when things got tight. And I, like the fool I was, always helped. Paid off their mortgage? Did that. Cleared their credit card debt? That too. Covered medical expenses, car repairs, vacations they desperately needed? Check, check, and check. I never asked for anything in return. In my mind, I was just being a good daughter. That's what I was supposed to do, right? But this time, they crossed a line so deep, so sharp, that I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had planned something special. A once-in-a-lifetime trip for the three of us to Europe, Rome, Paris, and London. I covered everything. Flights, hotels, sightseeing tours, even high-end restaurants. It wasn't cheap, but I thought, they deserve this. They've never traveled like this before. It'll be a good memory for us. That was my first mistake. The morning of our flight, I pulled up to their house in my car, excited and ready to go. They had their suitcases already packed and waiting by the door. As they climbed in, my dad, without a shred of hesitation, said, "Oh, by the way, we upgraded to first class. With your card." I laughed, thinking he was joking. But then my mom smiled and nodded, like it was no big deal. "You what?" I asked, still waiting for the punchline. "We upgraded," my mom repeated. "It was a long flight, and we wanted to be comfortable. It was only a few $1,000s, don't worry." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I pulled out my phone right there in their driveway, checked my credit card statement, and felt my stomach drop. $8,400. 8,000. F***king. Dollars. Are you serious? I asked, my voice shaking. "You did this without even asking me." "Sweetheart, you always say you want us to be happy," my mom said, waving a hand. "And you have plenty of money." I sat there for a moment, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I should have canceled the trip right then. I should have turned around, gone home, and let them figure out their own way. But I didn't. Instead, I swallowed the rage burning in my throat and forced a smile. "Fine," I said, putting the car in drive. "Let's go." We got to the airport. They were giddy, like children on Christmas morning, as if they hadn't just stolen nearly $9,000 from me. They lounged in their luxurious first-class seats while I sat in economy, crammed between a snoring old man and a teenager with an emotional support ferret. And I let them. But when we landed in Rome, that's when everything fell apart. It was late when we arrived at our hotel, a beautiful, historic place right near the Colosseum. I had booked us 2 rooms, one for them, one for me, because, despite everything, I still wanted them to enjoy the trip. As I was setting my bags down, my dad cleared his throat behind me. "We need to talk." Something about his tone made my stomach twist. I turned slowly. "About what?" My mom shifted uncomfortably. "It's nothing bad. Honey, well, we needed some extra cash, and you have such great credit." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "We took out a loan in your name," my dad said, like he was telling me the weather. $50,000. I heard the words. I understood them, but my brain refused to process them. "You what?" My mom hurried to explain. "It was for the house. We needed to pay off some things, and we figured since you help us anyway, it wouldn't be a big deal. We were going to tell you, but we didn't want to ruin the trip." I stared at them. $50,000. Taken. Without my knowledge. Without my permission. Using my name. I felt sick. My hands were shaking. "That's fraud." "It's family," my mom corrected. "You always say we should stick together. And you make so much money. Stop." I snapped. "Just stop." My dad sighed. "Listen, we'll pay you back." "With what?" I laughed bitterly. "You can't even afford your own damn bills." My mom flinched like I'd slapped her. "We thought you'd understand." "Understand?" I hissed. "You stole from me. You lied to me. And you think I should just be okay with it?" They both looked at me, genuinely confused, like I was the one being unreasonable. That's when it hit me. They weren't sorry. They didn't feel guilty. They didn't even think they'd done anything wrong. They expected me to accept it, to brush it off like I always did. But this time, they were wrong. I walked out of that room and straight into the hotel lobby, my mind racing. I was done. This was the last time they were ever going to use me. And I knew exactly how I was going to make them pay. I left the hotel lobby and walked aimlessly down the street, my heart hammering in my chest. The warm Roman air felt stifling, like it was pressing down on me, trapping me in a reality I couldn't escape. $50,000. Taken right out from under me. And they stood there in that hotel room, completely unbothered. It's family, they had said, as if that justified fraud. I reached a small cafe on the corner of a quiet street and sat down heavily at an outdoor table. A waiter came over, asking something in Italian, but I barely heard him. Just red wine. I mumbled, rubbing my temples. They had no idea what they had done. They thought I'd roll over, just like every other time. Just like when they maxed out a credit card I had once given them for emergencies. Just like when they forgot to pay me back for their car repairs. Just like when they used my Netflix, my Amazon, my bank account as if it belonged to them. But this wasn't a few $100s. This wasn't a bill I could ignore. This was fraud. This was serious. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't just angry. I was done. I sat there for hours, drinking glass after glass of wine, my mind racing. The waiter had stopped asking if I wanted anything else, probably because I looked like I was contemplating a rider, which, to be honest, wasn't far from the truth. By the time I stumbled back to the hotel, my parents were asleep. Good. I didn't want to see their faces. I didn't want to hear any more excuses or fake apologies. I lay awake in my room, staring at the ceiling, my body vibrating with adrenaline. I had a decision to make. And by the time the sun rose, I had made it. The next morning, I barely spoke to them. My mom made some chirpy comment about how wonderful the view was from their suite, the suite I paid for, but I just grunted in response. My dad had the nerve to ask if I was still upset, like I was throwing a childish tantrum over a broken toy. I didn't answer. I just smiled at them. And if they had paid attention, really paid attention, they would have realized that smile wasn't friendly. It was the smile of someone who was about to burn their entire world to the ground. We went about the day as planned. I took them to see the Colosseum, then to the Vatican. We had lunch at a little restaurant tucked into an alleyway, the kind of place tourists wouldn't know about. They were laughing, enjoying themselves, acting as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, I was making phone calls. The first call was to my bank. I reported my credit card as stolen. The transactions in question? The customer service rep asked. All of them, I said, staring at my parents across the table. Every last one. The second call was to my credit bureau. I told them my identity had been stolen, that a fraudulent loan had been taken out in my name, that I needed to dispute it immediately. The third call was to my lawyer. My parents forged my signature for a $50,000 loan, I said, barely containing my rage. What do I need to do to press charges? He was silent for a moment. Then, let's talk when you get back. Perfect. By the time we got back to the hotel, I was buzzing with anticipation. I almost wanted to tell them. Almost wanted to watch their faces as they realized what was happening. But I held back, because the best part was still to come. I waited until we were checking out of the hotel. The front desk clerk smiled at me. Checking out for all guests. I returned the smile. No, just me. 5 minutes later, I was in a taxi to the airport. Alone. My phone started ringing before I even reached security. I ignored the first 3 calls. On the 4th, I picked up. Where are you? My mom shrieked. I took my time answering. On my way to the airport. Silence. Then my dad's voice, lower, angrier. You're joking, right? Nope. You can't just leave us here, my mom screeched. Sure I can. I yawned. Have a great trip. And then I hung up. They called me 20 times after that. Texted me a dozen more. I didn't answer a single one. By the time my flight landed back home, my lawyer had already sent me the first draft of the paperwork. Fraud charges were officially in motion. My parents? They were stuck in Europe with no return tickets, no access to my money, and, best of all their credit cards had been canceled. They were about to learn exactly what it felt like to be helpless. I sat in my seat on the plane, sipping a glass of cheap airline wine, and let out the longest, slowest breath of my life. My phone was still vibrating in my lap, call after call rolling in from my parents. I put it on Do Not Disturb. For the first time in years, I felt light. Free. I wasn't going to be their safety net anymore. By the time I landed back home, my inbox was flooded with messages. Mom, what the HLL is wrong with you? Dad, pick up the damn phone. Mom, we have no money, no tickets back. You need to fix this right now. Mom, Dio, you think this is funny? Dad, you better answer us, or we're calling the cops. That one actually made me laugh. The cops? What exactly were they going to say? Hello, officer. Our daughter left us stranded in a foreign country after we stole $50,000 from her. Good luck with that. I didn't respond. I just tossed my suitcase in my car and drove home, blasting music the whole way. The next morning, my lawyer called. So, he said, are you sure you want to go through with this? I took a deep breath. Yes. He exhaled. All right. I've already started the process. The bank's fraud department is investigating, and we're filing formal charges for identity theft and forgery. Given the amount, they're looking at felony charges. I gripped the phone tighter. I knew what that meant. My parents could actually go to prison for this. And for the first time since finding out what they did, I hesitated. I thought about them sitting in Rome, probably panicking. I thought about my mom crying, my dad pacing, cursing my name. I thought about the way they raised me, the good memories, the childhood vacations, the birthdays, the Christmas mornings when I thought they were good parents. But then I remembered every time they took advantage of me. The times they guilt-tripped me into bailing them out. The times they made me feel like I owed them. The moment my dad looked me in the eye and admitted they forged my signature like it was no big deal. I clenched my jaw. Let's do it. My lawyer sighed. All right, but be prepared for a fight. They're probably going to try to talk their way out of this. I already knew that. Sure enough, the next day, my phone rang. My brother, Callum. I let it go to voicemail, but the second it ended, another call came through. And another. And another. Finally, I sighed and picked up. What the HLL is wrong with you? Callum shouted the second I answered. Wow, nice to hear from you too, I said dryly. Don't start with that sarcastic bullshit, he snapped. Mom and Dad are stranded in Italy, and you're over here playing some kind of revenge game? I rubbed my temples. Did they tell you why I left them there? They said you overreacted to a small loan. I let out a harsh laugh. Small? Callum, they stole 50 grand from me. They needed it. And that makes it okay? He groaned. You're really pressing charges? Against Mom and Dad. They committed fraud against me, Callum. What do you think I should do? Just let it go. Yes, he shouted. They're our parents. You don't send your own parents to prison. I could feel my blood boiling. So what? They just get to do whatever they want because they're family? If I did this to them, would you be telling them to forgive me? Silence. That was my answer. Look, I said, voice shaking with frustration. I've spent my entire life cleaning up their messes, paying their bills, covering for their bullshit. And this time, they went too far. Callum exhaled sharply. You're gonna regret this. No, I said quietly. I won't. And then I hung up. By the end of the week, the fallout was in full force. My parents had somehow managed to get back to the U.S., probably after begging Callum or my aunt to pay for their flights. But they had no money, no access to their credit cards, and now, a fraud investigation looming over their heads. I had expected them to go full nuclear, to show up at my house screaming. But they didn't. Instead, I got an email. Subject, let's talk from, Dad, we know you're angry. We know you feel betrayed. We don't want to fight with you anymore. We just want to fix this. Let's sit down and talk as a family. No lawyers. Just us. You owe us at least that much. I read it 3 times. I closed my laptop. I had no intention of answering. Because if there was one thing I had learned, it was this. They were only sorry because they got caught. I didn't respond to the email. I didn't call. I didn't text. For the first time in my life, I let them sit in the mess they made. I knew they weren't sorry. Not really. My dad's email was nothing more than damage control. A weak attempt at manipulating me back into their grip. I could feel the guilt trip laced between the lines. You owe us at least that much. But I didn't owe them a damn thing. Not anymore. 2 days later, they showed up at my house. I heard the knock while I was making coffee. I almost ignored it, but something told me to look. Peeking through the blinds, I saw them standing on my front porch, my dad's arms crossed, my mom clutching her purse like it was a lifeline. I sighed. Of course. They weren't going to give up until I faced them. I opened the door, leaning against the frame. What do you want? We just want to talk, my mom said quickly. Really? I folded my arms. Because last time you just wanted to talk, you told me you stole 50 grand from me. My dad's jaw tightened. Can we come in? I let out a humorless laugh. Absolutely not. My mom's face crumpled. Sweetheart, please. I stared at them. These were the people who raised me. The people I had spent my whole life protecting. And yet, standing there on my porch, they felt like strangers. I took a slow breath. You have 10 minutes. They exchanged a glance, then nodded. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. We didn't mean for things to get this bad. My mom started. I scoffed. Right? You accidentally forged my signature? You accidentally took out a loan in my name. She flinched. My dad's face darkened. It wasn't like that, he said. We were going to pay it back. With what? I snapped. You don't have anything. You don't even have a house anymore. My mom gasped. What? Oh, right. I smiled, slow and deliberate. Oh, you didn't know? The bank repossessed it. Guess when you don't pay your mortgage, they don't just let you keep the house. My dad's face turned red. You let them take our home? I blinked. I let them. You could have helped us, he yelled. You could have paid off the damn loan instead of dragging the cops into this. And there it was. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. So that's what this is about. You don't actually care about what you did. You're just pissed you couldn't manipulate me into paying for your mistakes. My mom grabbed my hand. We are sorry. No, you're not. I yanked my hand away. You're just sorry that, for the first time in my life, I didn't cave. Silence. My dad's hands clenched into fists. Do you have any idea what you've done? Our credit is ruined. We have nowhere to go. I tilted my head. Sounds like a you problem. My mom's eyes filled with tears. You're our daughter. I nodded. Yep. And you were my parents. And yet, here we are. They stared at me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't bending to them. I wasn't rushing to fix things. I wasn't their backup plan anymore. And they didn't know what to do with that. Finally, my dad exhaled sharply. We're done here. He turned, stomping down my porch steps. My mom hesitated, her lip trembling, like she wanted to say something else. But she didn't. She just followed him. And I stood there, watching them leave, feeling something I never thought I'd feel. Relief. For the first time in my life, I let my parents walk away. No chasing after them. No guilt. No second chances. Just silence. And I let them sit in it. I'd done everything I could to protect them, to shield them from the consequences of their own actions. But they had made one fatal mistake. They thought I'd always be there to clean up their mess. They were wrong. After they left, I thought I'd feel something. Sadness, regret, maybe even relief. But mostly, I just felt free. The fraud investigation was moving forward. The bank was pushing charges, and because of the amount they stole, my parents were facing serious legal trouble. They didn't have the money to pay the loan back, and without me covering for them, they had no way out. Their credit was destroyed. Their house was gone. Their finances were in ruins. And for once, it wasn't my problem. About a week later, Callum called me. I debated ignoring him, but curiosity got the best of me. They're living in a motel. I didn't say anything. They have nothing, you know. No house. No money. Mom's crying every day. Dad's blaming everyone but himself. He sighed. They need help. I raised an eyebrow. And I thought maybe you'd, call off the charges. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. Let me get this straight. They steal from me. They lie to me. They use me. And now I'm supposed to feel bad because they finally have to deal with the consequences? They're our parents, he said. I rolled my eyes. Oh, now they're our parents? Where were you when they were draining my bank account? Silence. Then, finally, Callum muttered. You're really not going to help them? No, Callum. I'm not. Click. I blocked his number. Even with everything happening, I wasn't quite done yet. There was one last thing I had to do. Through my lawyer, I made sure the bank knew I wasn't going to negotiate. No settlements, no repayments, no backroom deals. I wanted them to go after my parents with everything they had. And they did. My parents were forced to declare bankruptcy. Everything they had left, the little savings, the car, anything of value, was seized. They had no way to get another loan. No credit cards. No bank willing to trust them again. They had nothing. For years, they had treated me like an ATM. Now, they were penniless. The last time I ever heard from them was an email from my mom. Subject: Are you happy now? From: Mom, you ruined us. You turned your back on your own family. I hope you're proud of yourself. I read it twice. Then, without responding, I deleted it. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. See, revenge isn't about hurting people. It's not about cruelty or making them suffer. It's about making sure they can never use you again. And I had won. My parents? They were finally paying for everything they'd done. And me? I was finally living. And damn, it felt good.